All right, what up, guys? So we are on to the Barbarian build for the Season 7 PTR. And this one I'm kind of unsure about because it's trying to mix the current overpowering Hammer of the Ancients with Earthquakes to use the new chess piece. Because with these build guides, I'm more worried on more focused on trying to make new items work versus making the best builds. But anyway, let's just get into it. Starting off with the skill tree. We have Battle Bash because this is going to be our main source of resource generation. Then we're going Hammer of the Ancients, of course, over to Violent Hammer of the Ancients with Warpath, obviously, as well. Coming down here, Endless Fury, so that we generate a lot of fury with Bash, because it should just be like hit enemy once, maybe twice with Bash, and have Limitless Rage filled. That's the ideal. Coming down here, we have Ground Stomp into Strategic Ground Stomp because we're using the Earthquake aspect. We have 1 point in a Martial Vigor, and 3 points into Imposing Presence. What we actually want to do, though, is because we have a little bit of damage to bleeding enemies, go with the old thing that we used to do. We'll take 1 point out of here for now, 1 point out of here, and do this to make enemies bleed. Easy. Sometimes I remember I wanted to do things in the middle of making these videos. I apologize. So we do this to make enemies bleed. We have 1 in a Challenging Shout, and then while it's active, give us more life, so we get more damage when we overpower. We have Rallying Cry down to Strategic Rallying Cry to give us Unstoppable. And then Belligerence, which is, you're going to be able to temper ranks of Belligerence. So we have that into the gear part, but damage an enemy with the base skill increases your damage by 9%. You can also put points into Warpath, but I don't know. It'll be one of these two. But it's not going to be a huge difference in damage depending on which one you pick. So if they're in the same temper, I'll just take whichever one ends up rolling the best. Come down here. We had 5 points into Warcry, but anyway. Enhanced Warcry and then Power Warcry. We have 1 point in a Raid Leader just so when we shout we do heal a little bit, even if it's not much. And then shout skill durations, of course, from Booming Voice. I do want to put points into Swiftness for movement speed, but it doesn't help us do more damage, so we're going to refrain from that. I also don't know where I would take it from, to be honest. Coming down through here, we got Pit Fighter and Slaying Strike. We have Steel Grasp with the additional charge. This is one of our ways to make enemies vulnerable. We also have Lucky Hit Chance to make enemies vulnerable. There's another way to make them vulnerable, but I can't remember. But it's just trying to just keep that going. And then we have 1 point in a Thick Skin. Casting a weapon mastery skill fortifies you for 30% of your maximum life. This is to help with overpower damage. Increase the damage reduction you gain while you're fortified, since we'll get a little bit fortified. And then while you have fortified for over 50% of your maximum life, which I can't remember if we actually have a way to do that. If not, I will work it into the build because we want this extra 12% damage. Obviously, we have up to 30% here, but I can't remember if there's another one. Anyway, heavy-handed, brute force, wallop, of course, the traditional here. We don't have an ultimate skill because we're choosing to use 2 shouts instead, and then unbridled rage. Going to assign skills. That's just a tab name, but it's just our gear. So we want our aspects and uniques. This is just a different way of looking at it. Sorry, I'm new to the Mobalytics site. I made 1 build on it, and that was it. I prefer max roll because I'm on PC. Don't shoot. Mobalytics is just good for mobile, if I'm not mistaken, but I definitely prefer max roll, and it's mostly and only, so if anybody from Mobalytics ever sees any of my videos, the only issue I have is it doesn't show you your stats on the side to help you make decisions, because this build more than likely will have to be edited just a little bit because of, I don't know if I've got to my damage while berserking threshold, and I don't know if I've gotten my close damage threshold that I need for one of the glyphs, the Force of Nature one. But anyway, so we have Air Perdition on. The chest is going to be this. This is why we're focusing on the Earthquakes, and it's kind of like I'm wondering how I'm going to get this balanced, okay? But it's super interesting because Hammer of the Ancients was the first class I ever ran and got level 100 with back in Season 0. So I like it, and I ran Hammer of the Ancients in like Season 2 and all that until it just became really bad. But anyway. So it is a chest piece. So also, unfortunately, we'll lose damage from not using Shroud of False Death, but these builds, again, aren't meant to be like the best builds. They're just meant to try to use the new stuff that is coming in the season. So the chest piece, 50% hammer the ancients damage for 5 seconds after an earthquake explodes. I do believe it's going to be flat damage, so it doesn't matter, but it depends also if it's like a 1.5 of all damage, because if so, then that's gnarly, but I doubt that. I don't know if this will make it everything a 1.5x multiplier for all damage essentially, but I'm just gonna say not. Plus armor, which is nice, so we're probably gonna be able to take away some armor nodes and stuff, but we have them filled in anyway. 3 to 5 skill ranks to hammer the ancients, 2 to 3 skills of defensive stance, and then 22% chance for earthquake to deal double damage. And then the power, hammer of the ancients also forms a seismic line that deals its damage and slows enemies by 80% or up to 80% for 4 seconds. Earthquakes, it passes through, explode for their total damage, and are consumed. So we're just trying to make earthquakes so they go for a ton of damage. And then there's new tempers. I can't pronounce that, but you can get ranks to Warpath, Belligerence, and Heavy Hitter. This is what we're talking about. So Warpath or Belligerence is what we want. I put that we want it on our one-handed weapons, the Belligerence, because this is a weapon temper. Again, whichever one you hit first with a good rank, I would just stick with it, personally. We got to go through the rest of our gear, but before I forget, we have obviously to get our war cry. That's why it's not on our skill bar. We just get it. We still get the bonus from having ranks into it and stuff from here, and then exile, and then just like the rogue, I don't have rituals selected quite yet because the way that the rituals work now, and some of them have been changed. We got to figure out which ones are the best, and that's kind of hard to do without being in the game. But you will know during the PTR because everybody will be using the same shit. So there's that. And then as far as amulet, ring, all this stuff, this will just depend on where we're at. So, like, if you need a little bit more resistance, then you'll put diamond or whatever in there. If you need a little bit more armor, then it'll go in there. I don't think we'll need more armor because we have plenty of it, but we'll see. Okay, so aspect of earthquakes, ground stomp. This is why we have ground stomp, creates an earthquake, and then you deal extra damage while you're in that earthquake. So I don't know if that means, like, if you're in the earthquake and you hit the ground with Hammer the Ancients and it breaks and explodes, I'm pretty sure you'll still get that damage. So that's nice. If not, then that doesn't make any sense. Then we have damage while berserking on the gloves and Hammer the Ancient size. See, this is what I'm talking about. I don't have whichever of the boards has damage while berserking, and I don't have ire, but I can get the ire board. I can also change something for territorial so that our earthquakes deal more damage with the force of nature, but I don't know which of those is best, but those are really easy changes whenever the time comes. But this is going to be like the basis of the build. A few things will change as I can figure out how to do math better. Debalt's Will, so we get extra damage while we're unstoppable, and the all stats matter. Rakanoth's Wake is mostly for the resistance to all elements. We don't really care about anything else. We just want resistance to all elements and movement speed and cooldown reduction. So I guess we do care about other things, but its actual effect and the non-physical damage doesn't matter. Aspect of Ancestral Force on the two-handed with chance of Hammer the Ancients to deal double damage. We put damage to close instead of overpower so that we can get closer to the force of nature thing where our earthquakes will deal more damage. Because if the earthquakes deal more damage and you hit them with the hammer, they explode for more damage, pretty much. Edge Masters, this is Strength, Max Life, Overpower. And that goes on everything since you can't get close damage on things anymore, unfortunately. We have Edge Masters on one of the one-handed weapons. Damage to close. Remember, on the two one-handed weapons, there's nothing on there because the website's obviously not updated for the PTR, but we want the passive ranks to Belligerence or Warpath. Aspect of Intercom on the other one. We have the Grandfather. You can also put that, if you don't have a Grandfather in the PTR, which you should, because you should just be able to get one. We also have all stats on here, which is nice. But the what is it? I can't remember the name of it, but the Steel Grasp is also a nice option. That works too whenever we get out of the PTR. We actually get into Season 7, but that's something to like mess with later. Bold Chieftain's Aspect, just to get our cooldown reductions down. We have basic resource generation, so we just want more resource gen from hitting with Bash, because that's our main generator. Damage to close, max life, chance to make enemies vulnerable, and attack speed. Ring of Starless Skies, of course. And then Limitless Rage on the amulet with strengths, heavy-headed, brute force. some stuff doesn't matter too much, like how I only have ranks of Hammer of the Ancients and attack speed on the gloves. This is a PTR, so I don't really expect you to people to put a whole lot of time in it, including myself. So like this here, if I get a amulet that's got like strength and brute force on it, then fuck heavy-handed pretty much. Like I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time trying to master the PTR, you know? That is it for this stuff. I do believe we already went through here. So we have one more thing to do, which is to go through, or two things. Mercenaries, we have rare, and then down to Iron Wolf's Call. So our core skills will do more damage and cost no resource. Pretty simple. You could do inspiration like I've been doing on other builds, but I like this because Hammer of the Ancients is a why can't I think? Oh, it deals damage to enemies in close range. Then we want this right here. We'll pull them into rare, and we can just smash the shit out of them, right? And then Bloodthirst, of course, for attack speed. I always put this on here for most stuff because, like, I mean, you could do Verena and do her, what is it? The one that pulls enemies in. It's just like a Steel Grasp. Don't really think that's necessary. I'll just take the 10% attack speed. And now the last thing to do is the Paragon board. So the main things that would be subject for change here is getting rid of Rumble. Rumble gives our Earthquakes a ton of extra damage, and we get that nice additional bonus. So I think it's going to be best, but we could get rid of Rumble for Territorial so we can get damage to close. We can also get rid of where's Challenger at? Oh, Challenger's right here. Get rid of Challenger for like the same thing, or we could do something with Ire, you know? So we could get this filled up. Where's it at? Blood Rage. So we can get this Blood Rage filled up. So this build will be slightly edited possibly. It won't be too drastic, but I'm going to put this stuff into max roll and get the numbers. And then I'll make slight edits. But this right here, this build should be pretty close to where you want it to be. Changing Rumble to Ire is not a huge deal. And obviously, Territorial is probably not going to be needed because it caps out at 150%, so 30% of your damage versus close. So once you get to like 450% damage versus close, I don't think we're going to need to worry about Territorial all that much. So the worst thing that would happen would be taking Rumble out for like Ire or something. But it should be relatively similar. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling here. Starter board, Rumble, and grabbing pretty much everything, since you should be close to 300 in the PTR if you're already close to 300 now. With the changes to the way that your potions and stuff affecting the end of pits, so everybody's getting more experience, should make it a little bit easier. And I would assume most people are around like 270-ish, so taking out a couple points is not going to be a huge deal. Like even taking out 30 points from here, take out this, take out the armor, probably take out every armor, because we have armor on the Tibalt's Will pants, and yeah, just stuff like that. It's not a huge deal. But anyway, let's actually get into it. Rumble, all that. Then we have Challenger and Decimator, grabbing pretty much everything. Focusing heavy on anything that's max life, overpower damage. Physical damage is good because you can remove. We have Crusher in here. Crusher gives us like virtually no extra damage, 8.7% with a mace. So like you can remove some of this if you need to as well. We just want that. Make sure you're keeping the additional bonus. Come up through here, Force of Nature. This is the one that it's also kind of like iffy on, because the whole thing with earthquakes is like it's not like you make a bajillion earthquakes a second for this to do a whole lot of damage. If they add a way to make more earthquakes, that would be dope. But we want to make it work. We want to use the chest armor. Again, this is not meant to be the best build. This is meant to try to make a decent functional build with the new items in the game. They're coming with the PTR. And in here we have Dominate, grabbing all of the willpower nodes, making sure to grab this resistance to all elements here. We don't need this here because Earthquake duration doesn't matter. We're trying to break them with our Hammer of the Ancients. And the Dust Devils that this stuff makes doesn't matter. It's just getting that extra damage with our Earthquakes that we came here for. Damage versus close here. The willpower will be met. This doesn't calculate the pants and stuff like that. Coming up here, Earthquake damage and physical damage, which was good. Max life and armor over here. Bonebreaker with Wrath to get all of our critical. We get all the critical strike nodes. Make sure to grab the legendary node. and pretty much we have every single blue node on this board. And then last, Blood Rage. We have Crusher in here. We were just talking about it, grabbing this damage while berserking here. We grabbed this just because we can or could. I'm level 300, so when we get to the PTR, if it is just account copying, I'll be level 300. So I'll be able to fill out the board every board however much I want. I know that not everybody can do that, so that's why I'm kind of giving you guys tips on things you could remove. But yeah, that's it. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all the generic YouTube stuff. We got 2 rogue builds, Barbarian down so far, so we got 4 more classes to go. Thank you for watching.